Hey everybody, thanks for joining us back here at the Range Report, or as you can see this evening, the Garage Report. Uh, exactly like all of you guys, I'm kind of stuck in a really bad position of not being able to go anywhere, not being able to do anything, being pretty much locked down under this quarantine, so to speak. Uh, you may know in July of last year, I moved down to North Carolina, and that's where a majority of our videos have been taking place. It's where a lot of our range shoots have been coming from. And by moving down to North Carolina, all of my firearms went down to North Carolina as well. Uh, well, a couple of weeks ago, well, just about a month now, I had to come back up to New York to take care of this property and take care of some loose ends here. And I wound up getting stuck. So I'm stuck 700 miles from home. I don't have a whole lot with me along the lines of firearms. Well, I have firearms. I just don't have all of them with me. Uh, One of the things that I was very happy to do when I got up to New York was to transfer one of my firearms to my daughter. She has a concealed carry permit, and I wanted to make sure that in these difficult times that she had the means of defending herself properly. She's a little late to the firearm game, but she's proficient. She knows what she's doing. And rather than her going out and spending money on a new firearm, I just decided that I would give her one of mine. Thought it would be the most prudent thing. I figured, well, instead of spending the money on another gun, let's buy some ammunition for you. Let's get you at least set up. So that's what we did last week. And we went to one of my local FFLs that was open at the time, Mayhood Sporting Goods in Norwich, New York. And at the time that we went up there last week, they were only allowing 3 people in the store at a time. There were probably 4 employees in there at any given moment. And as soon as one person would leave, they would disinfect the entire place, wait for the other 2 people to leave, and then they would allow the next 3 people to come in. So they were really going above and beyond as far as this, social distancing that's being required. And the parties of 3 only were being allowed if they were people who had already come together. So myself and my daughter were able to go into the store, just the 2 of us, handle our transaction, get everything done, get her some ammunition, get out the door. We were done in record time. The people at Mayhoods were professional, courteous. They were taking every precaution that you could possibly take under these difficult situations. And they helped me make sure that my daughter had the means to defend herself. Well, as of 6 o'clock today, the New York State governor, Emperor Andrew Cuomo, decided to take it upon himself and declare that FFLs are no longer essential. So anybody who was looking to go pick up a gun or get some ammunition, do whatever they needed, even accessories, whatever it was that they needed. As of 6 p.m. today, you can't do it here in New York. Even though the federal government, the President of the United States, has deemed that firearm manufacturers and FFLs are essential, because let's face it, I mean, right now we're perched on a really delicate area where things can go one way or another, and we actually don't know what's going to happen because this is something that hasn't happened since the Spanish flu of 1917. There's never been something like that where anybody, at least in my generation or the generation older, certainly not the generations younger, have had to deal with any of this. So we don't know yet how long it's going to be before we start seeing things happen that we've seen happen in other countries. Civil unrests, rioting, looting, you name it. There's a whole host of evil that takes place when people start to get desperate. But when people start to get desperate, the people who need to be prepared are not going to be able to have that ability to be prepared now. Now, I know there's a lot of people that say, well, I got my guns, I got my ammo, my family's going to be safe. And, all of those people who didn't have the ability or were concentrating on preparedness, well, tough luck on them. And listen, to a certain degree, I feel for you. I agree with you. I've been sounding the alarm for my whole life about being prepared for these kind of things. Having a plan, being able to protect your property, protect your family, protect yourself, being prepared in any situation that you possibly can be. Have as much situational awareness as possible. But these are not those times. This is not the average everyday run of the mill situation that we're facing. So there's going to be a lot of people who were on fences that didn't know whether or not they wanted to get a gun to protect themselves. They didn't know exactly where to go to get trained in order to protect themselves. And even though myself and millions of other people like me have been, trying to ring that bell and trying to bring those friends to the range, get them out there, get them prepared, there's been a certain amount of reluctancy. Now, we could all sit back and Monday morning quarterback this, and hindsight being 2020, saying, well, you coulda, you shoulda, you didn't, and now screw you. I understand that. I'm also of the mind of saying, well, you know what, life is precious. And even those people that have been reluctant to protect themselves, I still want to be able to help those people. Because sometimes, it's like having a little kid. No matter how many times you tell them that the stove is hot, it's not until they put the hand on it that they're actually going to learn the lesson. And sometimes they're going to have to put two hands on it, and their tongue and their butt and everything else. It takes a lot. Sometimes it takes a lot for people to learn. But those people now that are in that situation where they're starting to realize, you know what, I can have all the toilet paper in the world, but if I don't have the means of protecting it and the food that I have, well, I really don't have a lot. And now we've got people like Cuomo saying, well, too bad. Now, he's not saying too bad for the same reason that we would say too bad. We would say too bad, well, a lot of us would say, no, too bad because, well, you should have known better. He's saying too bad because he doesn't care. He doesn't give a flying crap about whether or not you have the means of defending yourself. Neither does that governor in New Jersey. What's this guy's name? Phil Murphy. Each of these guys benefit from the same thing that all of the political class benefit from. Having somebody standing next to them in a uniform with a badge and a gun, or in a suit with a badge and a gun, or with some sniper on the building outside where they're going to give a speech, flagging entire crowds with their rifle, to protect that guy. Guys like Bloomberg, who, he gets a lot of threats every day, so it's justifiable for him to have 6 or 8 armed bodyguards around him at all times. Now, I don't get threats every day, but I know there's probably a couple of people out there that would probably, feel just as happy if I was no longer taking my next breath of air. I should have the right to be able to defend myself from somebody who wants to do me harm. You should be able to have the right to do something to protect yourself. These people do not believe you have that right. Maybe it's because they grew up in a protected class, or maybe it's because they put so much faith in government that they think government is the be-all, end-all as far as protecting society. But government is people, and people are fallible. So for every single person in society that does something wrong and winds up having to be shipped off to some prison someplace, I don't understand why people think that same percentage doesn't apply to people in government. People in the private sector, in the general population, have ill will. They have evil intentions because people are fallible. People in government are no different. Because when they punch that clock at the end of the day, they're still a member of the public. So they're just as susceptible to ill will and evil intention as anybody else is. So why we put faith in them because they have the moniker of government is a mystery to me. I forgot who it was that said that they could pick the a random 635 names out of the phone book and find better congressional representation than what we have in Washington, D.C. right now. And probably that's true, because at least those 635 names you pull out of a phone book are more or less going to be people who understand what being a private citizen is about, as opposed to being a coddled representative who every single thing in their lives is scheduled, protected, and with the exception of guys like Rand Paul, who nearly got killed by his neighbor tackling him, or Steve Scalise, who wound up getting nearly murdered on a baseball field with some other congressman. Every now and then something happens that's a stark reality for them to snap in and say, hey, maybe the world's a dangerous place. But governors like this Cuomo guy, they don't have that. I don't know what sort of empathy it is that they're missing, what kind of psychological defect that these guys are suffering from that makes them think that because they don't feel threatened and that they don't feel vulnerable, that they have the right to dictate that you shouldn't feel vulnerable, that you shouldn't feel unsafe. When the shit hits the fan, the governor's mansion is going to be in lockdown. There's going to be 200 state police surrounding that thing, probably National Guard and everything else. Ain't nobody going to get to Cuomo. Nobody's going to get to Phil Murphy. When questioned the other day about his decision to close gun stores in New Jersey, somebody said, well, you have armed protection. We don't have armed protection. Why don't you think it's necessary for us to be able to protect ourselves? And he points to the guy next to him and says, well, it's not my decision to have the armed security. It's the guy next to me in the uniform. Phil Murphy, write an executive order mandating that your state police disarm before they show up to work. Don't travel around in an armored vehicle. Don't travel around with bulletproof glass. Don't travel around with body armor underneath your fancy suit. Go out there and talk to the people like anybody else would. Leave behind your security. Andrew Cuomo, tell the New York State Police to stand down. And the next time you want to go do some photo op of you helping somebody on the side of the road, make sure that not only the camera people aren't there, but make sure that your armed security isn't there. Because that's how we have to live. The people, as in we, the people. That's how we have to live every friggin' day. I don't travel with armed protection. I am my armed protection. When I take my mother shopping, I'm her protection. I'm also the protection for everybody who's in that store who isn't armed. I'm the protection for the people in the parking lot. I'm the protection for anybody that needs to be protected, because that's a responsibility that I took on the day that I decided that I was going to become somebody who carried a firearm, is that I would put myself in the line of fire to protect somebody else. Because I know damn well if I didn't have a firearm, I would hope to God somebody else did, and that somebody else would be able to do the thing that I couldn't do for myself. So now here we are in New York, and the gun stores are being closed down. Anybody who had the hope of being able to go buy themselves a shotgun or a rifle or something, because, a handgun is a totally different issue. It's not like other states where they don't have permitting applications. In New York State, outside of the 5 boroughs, you've got to go to your county, you got to go to your permit application department, get a permit, get an appointment, have your fingerprints done, fill out your application, get your fingerprints done at a different location, submit your paperwork, then hope that the judge decides to allow you to have a permit. And that permit is restricted. You can't carry. You can only keep it in your home or go to the range. Cannot be loaded and transport to either or place. In order to get the restrictions lifted, then you have to go and take a course from an organization like LionsPride Training Center, good friends of ours. I'll put their link in the description below. and you'll have to go qualify with an 8-hour class, and you'll have to demonstrate your proficiency in shooting. And then you have to take that certificate, put it in with a letter to a judge who then decides whether or not you have the constitutional right to defend yourself. And that's not even the trouble you got to go through to actually buy a handgun. At least buying a rifle or a shotgun is easy enough to do. You walk in, you pick out what you want, you put your money down, they do the next check, and you're out the door. All right, that's great, so long as the rifle or shotgun that you're buying complies to the 65 different criteria in the New York State SAFE Act. This cosmetic piece of crap that does nothing but mitigate your ability to defend yourself for cosmetic purposes. This is a bit of a rant on my behalf because I'm frustrated. I'm not frustrated so much with being away from my family and being away from my home and being being away from everything that I've been building for the last couple of years and trying to achieve. This is a rant because I just see how quickly, when I look outside, everybody is willing to go belly up and surrender their rights. And it's a rant because I see organizations like the New York State Police, men and women who have taken an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. I see them not standing up for the citizens because there's something, we can talk about the coronavirus and we could talk about the influenza. There's another flu that's out there called the blue flu. And that's something that happens when law enforcement realizes that the people that they're taking their orders from have overstepped their bounds and have put restrictions on people that there shouldn't be, such as telling people you don't have the right to defend yourself. And then all of a sudden, that blue flu only seems to affect law enforcement. And then law enforcement doesn't show up to those, positions of appointed security details for, his lordship, his emperor, Fredo's brother. I would like to see a statement from the New York State Police or from the Fraternal Order of Police or from the police union. I would like for them to make a statement that says, Andrew Cuomo, you're wrong. Firearms are a necessity. Firearms are needed. Firearms are a right. And if you do not want to allow the people of New York to protect themselves, then maybe you should go without protection for yourself. I don't know. Maybe it would be a bold statement. Maybe it would be out of the norm. But these are not normal times by any stretch of the imagination. And maybe what we need in this country right now is a little bit of bold leadership so that these people who've been stripping away everybody's rights, that you, even if you're in a car by yourself and you're healthy and you want to travel to your other home by yourself in a car while you're healthy and go back home, that you're going to be stopped at a border and somebody's going to ask you for your papers. I understand the need for people to be proactive. I understand the need for people to keep distance from one another. I understand the need why we have to keep everybody at arm's length. I understand that. But I also know that people who trade their essential liberty for security receive and deserve neither. This is a bad thing going around, and I hope to God that we get it under control. I really do. But what happens if we don't? See, that's what people aren't thinking about. They're only thinking about when it gets under control. I'm thinking about what happens if it doesn't. Are you going to be prepared for that? I will. Or at least I'm going to put up a hell of a fight. Make sure your governors don't take away your right to defend yourself and your family. Because if the shit really does hit the fan big, the police aren't going to be there to protect you. They're going to be home defending themselves and their families. Those National Guardsmen are not going to be going door to door knocking to find out who's from where and everything else. No, they're going to be at home defending their families. You are your only line of defense. When it all comes down to it, you. Now, like I said, I can defend me. I can defend mine. At least I know my daughter can defend herself now. I was happy to see my daughter. I was glad that I did. We don't know what tomorrow brings. That might have been the only time I get to see my daughter. I don't know. Maybe walking out the door of the house a month ago might be the only time I get to see my family. I don't know. You don't know. But for now, encourage your governors to knock their shit off and recognize that before anything else, we're Americans. We will fight our way through this, but we would like to keep our rights intact while we do. Oh, and since this is a gun channel, I figured, I said I traveled with something. Well, I'm traveling with this. So yeah, I'm gonna be all right. Don't worry about me. I got plenty of ammo to go with this thing, and I'll be all right. And no, don't worry. She's not loaded at the moment. I took the rounds out of it before I came out to the garage to bring you the garage report. And like I said, I just want to encourage everybody: stay safe, stay vigilant, stay strapped, and hopefully in the weeks to come we can get back to some sense of normalcy. If we can't, well, we'll have to address that when the time comes. But for now, this is Frank, and hey, 5150 Rifles. Check these guys out. Awesome stuff. We'll be debuting something of theirs by hopefully the end of summer. But you guys be safe, shoot straight. Much love. God bless.